Good morning, everyone. Okay, after that video, I want you to do me a huge favor. Give the person next to you a wave, a fist bump, a high five, and a round of applause. What you all have done to carry your communities through this pandemic is nothing short of amazing. You are true heroes of heart. The heart, creativity, and the resilience gathered here today is in fact lighting the way forward. Thank you. So, it has been 720 days, or said differently, 1 year, 11 months, and 18 days, but who's counting, since we were all gathered together at ICBA Live. I am absolutely thrilled to be here with you, my community banking family, live and in person. It's something to applaud, yes. Of course, we've stayed connected virtually over the past 2 years through those countless Zoom meetings we're still having. And we've gotten pretty good at muting and unmuting ourselves, most of the time, that is. You know, I remember back to March 12th, 2020. Yes, I remember the date. Looking to my husband, John, and saying, this is crazy. We're going to close the office and work from home for the next 2 weeks. But even before those first 2 weeks were over, it seemed like something else, something new, something unprecedented was occurring. The world around us was changing in ways I never would have imagined. And this was a radical and immediate change. And we had to figure it out fast, because every day brought something new we had never seen before. To get through this, we had to be nimble. We had to work together, and we had to make sacrifices. As community bankers and as ICBA, we worked 24/7 to figure it out, because we knew one thing: we are all in and all heart. Which brings us to the theme of this year's ICBA Live: all in, all heart. And this is exactly how community banks and ICBA have managed to succeed amid the challenges of the past 2 years. You continually met the needs of your customers, communities, and staff, beset by the virus and its economic fallout. You worked around the clock in making emergency small business loans and following every twist and turn of the Paycheck Protection Program. You leveraged technology and you embraced change. As we gather here this week, let's craft a vision for the future. Let's transform this extraordinary change into enduring progress. Over the next 2 days, you will see, hear, and feel stories of all in and all heart, and how that has and will continue to make the impossible possible. Folks, we have the momentum. We have the solutions, we have the tools, we have the network, and thanks to ICBA, we have the voice to ensure a proportionate regulatory system and level playing field. And here are a few highlights from the past year.
So, Paul, tell me what the government is doing and why it's important to stand up against it.
Well, a lot of people really have a hard time keeping up with what's going on here inside the Beltway in Washington, D.C., and we're sounding...
Well, I think the concept here is to try to ultimately get at tax owed. And our concerns here is aggregate deposit or account information has nothing to do with tax responsibility or liability. At the Independent Community Bankers of America, we are all in for community banks and only community banks. And we are all heart because we know you are the heartbeat of this nation's economy. Each and every community deserves a community bank dedicated to their success. This heartbeat is what drives us as Team ICBA and as an industry. It's why we run 24/7. And while my running shoes on stage today are a bit of symbolism, with more to come on that in a bit, the last 2 years have felt like a sprint, and we are all in. We don't stop and we don't give up. At ICBA, we are not conflicted or confused. We don't go halfway. We know why we are here. That commitment, that consistency, that heart is what makes all the difference in the race in Washington and on Main Street. It distinguishes us. It propels us. It's where we derive our strength as an association, as an industry. Take, for instance, last April, ICBA's advocacy team found a handful of curious lines buried in a couple of press releases from the White House and Treasury Department. The language called for financial institutions to report their customers' account flow information to the IRS. This raised serious privacy, due process, and data security concerns for those we as community banks serve. After uncovering the troubling proposal, we immediately began working with community bankers and state banking associations to respond in force, even though we faced very difficult odds. We knew the administration and both chambers of Congress were lined up behind this proposal. So we had to bring our customers, other organizations, and the broader public along. We had to strategize and think creatively to get our message across. With this, ICBA created and executed the Keep My Banking Private campaign. In addition to meeting directly with policymakers, we took our comprehensive campaign to the press, the airwaves, social media, and of course, directly to community bank customers. And together, we generated more than 700,000 messages and thousands of phone calls to Congress. We also had a 3,000% increase in web traffic to banklocally.org due to the overwhelming customer interest in the campaign. This overwhelming response had a significant impact on the House's decision to leave the proposal out of the reconciliation bill. And while no policy is truly dead in Washington ever, ICBA and community bankers have stopped the IRS reporting proposal in its tracks. And while it remains a threat as the debate in Washington continues, ICBA will remain vigilant to ensure it is not reintroduced at the 11th hour. ICBA-led grassroots outreach also helped ensure the omission of several anti-community banking tax provisions from the spending package. proposals to hike the corporate and capital gains tax rates, limit deductions for subchapter S banks, and more have been wisely left on the cutting room floor. With policymakers continuing to float harmful provisions such as the Small Business Administration direct lending, our campaign will continue. These successes point to community banks' advocacy leadership in Washington and the importance of going all in. We exercise that leadership and influence again as the only National Financial Trade Association to publicly oppose Sal Omarova's nomination for the Comptroller of the Currency. In a joint letter spotlighting Omarova's proposals to, quote, end banking as we know it, ICBA and our affiliated state community banking groups took the rare step of formally opposing a Prudential Banking Agency nominee. But with our mission clear and uncompromised, ICBA and community bankers stood together for Main Street communities and against harmful policy proposals that had been formally introduced in academic papers. Our voice was heard and Professor Omarova's nomination was withdrawn. And these are far from our only successes over the past year. Together, ICBA and community bankers have convinced policymakers to suspend harmful provisions of the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac preferred stock purchase agreements. We helped eliminate the FHFA's adverse market refinance fee. We helped convince the Fed to move up the launch of FedNow to 2023 and successfully urged the OCC to reconsider its Community Reinvestment Act final rule. Of course, our advocacy to-do list in 2022 remains long and as challenging as ever. But I have all the confidence in the world that we can and will make positive change happen for community banking. Our priorities include, but not limited to, pushing back against the 1071 proposal and credit union overreach, advancing the Safe Banking Act and ACORA Act, pressing for higher regulatory asset thresholds and an end to the ILC loophole, supporting minority banks and CDFIs, and standing firm against interchange price controls, overdraft restrictions, and postal banking. Now, clearly, we have our work cut out for us. But I have no doubt that, again, ICBA and community bankers will prevail by standing firm, speaking out, and working together. And with ICBA's Capital Summit right around the corner in early May, I encourage everyone in this room and back home to join us in Washington for this year's event. It's where we come together in person to flex those advocacy muscles and show Congress that we are all in for customers and our communities. And please stay engaged day in and day out with ICBA's Grassroots Action Center. Our goal is to make it easy for you to advocate because your individual and unique voice matters. It's how, even during a global crisis, we have reminded Washington that we won't stand by in the face of harmful policies that threaten those we serve. It's how, even though our nation has become roiled by stark political divisions, ICBA and community bankers remain unified, undistracted, and guided by the politics of community banking. It's how, yes, that is our guiding principle. It's how our positive reputation in the halls of Congress and the White House endures. And this is why we will continue to speak out loud and clear and make a positive impact in Washington. Here again, our unique mission, our ability to go all in on behalf of what's right for community banks and our customers is the difference maker. And it is what will carry us forward in the face of ongoing challenges. It is our bedrock foundation for moving ahead. And this commitment and tenacity extends to everything that we do at ICBA. Going all in and all heart is what has driven ICBA's 4th Think Tech Accelerator, featuring innovative fintechs that target community bank pain points. This year, we expanded our boot camp to 16 weeks to provide even more direct guidance on how the cohort can refine their offerings to best meet your needs. In fact, this year's application pool was so competitive that the selection committee chose 11 finalists instead of the standard 10. And as many of you probably witnessed at yesterday's showcase, the 2022 cohort has continued the Accelerator's tradition of innovative solutions designed to serve community bank customers. All in is how ICBA has continuously expanded our innovative education and training solutions from Community Banker University that use education to empower and inspire community bankers and the next generation of leaders. In fact, through this focus, Community Banker University supported a record number of bankers last year by bringing education and classification programs directly to you through digital channels. This focus is what has driven us to develop communities of innovation podcast, Think Tech Network Directory, an updated core processor resource guide, payment strategy assessment tools, marketing and communication toolkits, and so many other resources. By going all in with community bank focused advocacy, innovation, and education, ICBA is serving its one and only mission to create and promote an environment where community banks flourish. This unique mission, this focus on community, and this family is where we, and I personally, derive our strength and grit. And we've needed that strength and grit these past 2 years, haven't we? Some of us have had to pull all-nighters and become instant SBA experts. Some of us have served not just as bankers, but also teachers, full-time parents, volunteers, caregivers, all at the same time. Some of us have experienced devastating losses. This thing called life can be really hard sometimes. The honest reality is, all in and all heart is not easy. It's why my dad often tells me, Rebecca, you're running a marathon, not a sprint. I've got my running shoes on stage today because it's a physical reminder of the marathon we're running individually and as an industry. It's also a reminder of the importance of taking a deep breath and knowing that our training, our conditioning, these moments in time is what makes us stronger. As I reflect on the last 2 years, some days have felt like a sprint pace on that marathon course. And even more challenging, like a run up to the top of Wheeler Peak in northern New Mexico at 13,000 feet. But even when life has us running in every direction, we still hang on to what our priorities are and what's in our heart. This felt particularly true for me on October 25th, 2021, when I had the opportunity to pause time and spend the day with my grandma. Now, while this may not sound too extraordinary, it was yet another week of running an ultramarathon on that sprint pace. In 1 week, we had our fall leadership meetings in Arizona, back to DC for 48 hours, then back to Arizona to speak at a director's conference, and then back to DC for that Fox News interview that you just saw on the screen. But in the middle there, I took a detour and a trip to Colorado for a day with Grandma. My grandma is a trailblazer. As a single mom, she went back to school at the age of 40 to get her degree in CPA certification. She was the first female bank director in Denver, had her own very successful business, and then for the final chapter in her career, took on the role of a CFO at a community bank. There's a lot more to that story. But in the early days of my banking career, I was blessed to work with her and have her as a teacher and mentor. In fact, she was the first one in our family to get involved with ICBA. My time growing up with her was spent talking about anything you can imagine while cooking, listening to music and, of course, dancing, but most importantly, reconciling accounts and creating GL entries. That's what you do with Grandma, right? When you talk about all in and all heart, that is my Grandma Pat. There was no job at the bank she couldn't tackle. Her presence and example encouraged those around her to do more than they thought possible. Talk about a leader. So back to that day in October, that detour. It is a day I will never forget. My aunt and I sat by my grandma's bedside, simply listening to music. At the end of the day, I kissed my grandma goodbye and told her I'd see her again soon. Well, today, Grandma's smiling down on all of us, or as my mom would say, dancing in heaven. I'm so grateful that in the midst of the marathon, I had that day and those memories. And as hard as it is to share this with all of you, it's important for me to be real as we talk about being all in and all heart. The speed, the intensity of what we do can sometimes make it difficult to just breathe, to take the time, to sit and listen to music, to put on some running shoes and get some much needed exercise, and take the time we need with loved ones. For me, it's gatherings like this that allow us to pause, to remember what is important, and ensure we take the time for ourselves so we're stronger for those around us. The day my grandma passed, which was a mere week after my detour to Colorado, my mom told me about a song that had meant a lot to her over the last few months. The song is Cody Johnson's Till You Can't. I wish I could sing the chorus for you, but that's not happening. But I'll share the lyrics because they touched me. If you've got a chance, take it. Take it while you've got a chance. If you have a dream, chase it, because a dream won't chase you back. If you're gonna love somebody, love them as long and as strong and as close as you can, till you can't. I truly believe we can make anything possible. We just have to take the time to do it. Take the chance and dream big for ourselves, for our families, and as we bring this back to why we are here today, for this amazing industry. This industry that is grounded in community and family, that makes dreams come true, and that makes decisions and takes chances for the right reasons. Let's take those chances, let's chase those dreams, and most importantly, let's hold on to our loved ones by continuing to push forward even in the darkest of days and the most challenging of times, by remaining focused on what it is that drives us. By knowing our priorities, we accomplish more than we ever thought possible. Even in the face of challenge, entirely new circumstances, radical change, impossible odds, and a toxic political environment, we advance, we run that marathon. At ICBA, this disruption of the last 2 years has amplified the unity and the strength of our membership and our collective voice. With our running shoes or heels on, our sleeves rolled up, a few deep breaths along the way, and our hearts full of passion and optimism for this great industry, we will continue to create and promote an environment where community banks flourish. Thank you, community bankers, for being the heroes of heart for your local communities. And thank you for going all in with your whole heart every single day.